Okay. So all the machines, the good thing about them is that they all have arrows and numbers. They have arrows and numbers, and that's what helps for threading. Okay. Now sometimes the numbers are hard to see, but generally, let me see. This one is white on white, so you will have to, but is there. Now this is the spool. This is a spool pin. This is your spool of thread. You put it in. This is the stopper or spool cap, and it goes in. When you start sewing, you don't want this spool to jump out. So we always have a cap to cover it. But with this machine, with that one, and with that white one, and most of the Singer machines, they have 6 clear thread guides with numbers and arrows that you can see. So once you start, there's no direction, set in stone. You can just start, you grab your thread tail and you go, this is number 1, this is number 2. You make sure you're in there. Then you follow the groove here. Now, this groove, which is number 3 here, it seems like it's not referring to anything, but it's actually referring to this dial here. It's called the tension dial. The tension has to be on number 4. That's the manufacturer's setting. If you have a machine, an old machine that is not on 4, it could be the problem that it's not sewing right. It should always be on 4. But in some cases, machines have been mismanaged to the point where they don't work until they are like 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. But for most machines, 4 is the manufacturer's setting. So we pass the 3. That's number 3. It's referring to that. And you come there, you see the arrow pointing down, you follow the arrow. When you hit 4, the arrow turns to go back up. So you follow it. Just make sure you're pulling as you're doing that. And the thread is being engaged where they need to be. Now, this guy here is the most problematic part of the machine. I'm saying that because it can hide. And if you don't know, when you're turning your machine, the hand wheel, this is your hand wheel, always turn it towards you. That's what makes this guy happy. It goes up and down, and its job is to take thread in just the right tension amount and feed it to the needle. If you miss this because it's hidden, you don't see it, and you just continue, and there's no thread inside this, you won't be sewing. You will hear a loud noise and there will be nothing happening. But because it hides, a lot of times beginners forget, or they don't even know it's there to engage it. There's a space behind it, so you go behind and engage it left, just like it's drawn on here. You see the arrow, and it's going from, it's number 5, it's going this way to that way. That's referring to this guy. Now, with the brother, what happens is this doesn't come all the way out, but just knowing the mechanism that it's not coming all the way out, but I can do this and it should be hooked. That's how we navigate the brother, because Singer will bring it up and you'll see it. But brother, it's still there. It's still a metal. It's called the take-up lever. It takes your thread and just continues down. And then you have the last arrow, which is number 6, referring to this big hook here. It's something like this that requires the thread to be there, so that it's not all over the place. So you come in, you go behind it and put the thread in. Then you're ready to thread your needle. But before you thread your needle, there's another thread guide, which they don't necessarily number. It's right below the needle clamp. This is the needle clamp. It holds the needle in place. But right underneath it, there's a little hook. It's same shaping. You grab it, first big hook, go behind, make sure it's in there. Then this one, you need both fingers to do it. You go in and out, and you are in there. If you don't use both hands, it will be a little hard. Let's say I'm trying to get this in. It's not going to be easy. You use one hand to anchor it and the other just go in. It's not in the back, or it's right in front of you. So from here, we're ready to thread the needle. Now, the needle is always, unless it's a very old machine, I've seen very old Singer machines that have the needle pointing from left to right. But the modern ones, as long as they were made around 1970 and beyond and forward, you should have the needle facing you. So you grab a white thread, go behind it, and you will see the hole, a whole lot bigger. Without it, it's hard to see. Now, years ago, a student told me, Ms. Lily, I promise you my needle doesn't have an eye. It doesn't have a hole. I'm too sure. So I told her, well, I've been teaching for a long time, sewing for a while. I haven't seen a needle with now an eye yet. And of course it had an eye, but she couldn't see it. So we came up with this trick, and you put it behind and you can see it clearly. So now you just go from front to back with the paper behind it and your thread sharp. If it's not sharp, make sure you cut it. You just go from front to back, and you will help it to come through. You pull from behind, and that's it. That's the setting for the back, the top. The bottom, which is called the bobbin, this one, is the second part of the sewing process. We have two processes. We have the top part, which ends in the threading of the needle, and the second part, which is this guy here. Any new machine will come with an empty bobbin. Or if you were gifted your machine and it doesn't have an empty bobbin, you can buy one. Most of these machines have a universal, size that they use. But the very old Singer machines have a shorter one, a smaller one, that if you're not careful, if you put one of these in those machines, it won't work. But for now, these ones here, they all use the same size. Okay, this one doesn't have too many tricks though. Just like, you have to go through so much or navigate a lot. But there's some important part that you need to remember, how it goes in. It goes in a particular orientation, very, very important. You can't just pick it and put it in. There are two ways it can go in. It can go in this way or go in that way. If you didn't know anything about it, you just picked it and put it in. So we found that this way kind of looks like a P, where the thread tail is the leg of a P and the bobbin is the head of P. But if you flip it, you get something like a Q or a 9. This is the absolute wrong way to go in. But if you didn't know and you go in like this in the form of a 9, it will sew. The only thing is the bottom stitching will be very loose. So always remember, this is the way to go. P format. The P is P for proper, P for perfect, P for position. Whatever reminds you of P format, remember to go in like that. Once you put it in like that, there's also a tiny groove in front of you. It's right here. It faces you all the time. P format, you drop it, grab the thread tail, go inside. That groove goes down. Go inside and yank it. You will hear a click like that. It's soft, but you will hear it. Once that is done, you grab the top thread. It is the top thread that helps us to bring the bottom thread to the top, because it has to come to the top to sew. So you will see this action happening. Now this is the older process with older machines, this one. That one also, this one will do the same thing. But this has a needle threader, much like that too. They have needle threaders that I will explain to you how we use them. And they have a different system of the bobbin. It's a whole lot easier, but most machines have this look. So now I'm helping it to come to the top, because it went and hooked to the bottom thread, comes to the top, and I just help it to come up like that. Once it comes to the top, it brings the bobbin thread to the top. This is not too well done. Let me do it again. So I have this P format, drop it in, go down and yank, and hear that click. Once you hear the click, you're good. Now you grab the top thread and turn the hand wheel towards you, not away from you, towards you. And it goes down one revolution and comes right up and brings the bottom thread to the top. With that, you will see the bottom thread like a loop, in the form of a loop. You go in and you unravel that loop, and you're ready to put both threads to the back. You cover the bobbin thread, and you're ready to test to see if your threading was done correctly. This is the point that students like to say, come and see if I did it right. No, let the machine tell you you did it right. You just go ahead, got your settings are correct, you have straight stitching, so you go ahead and you test it. You stitch and you have...
Is that going to do 3 inches? What does that mean?
This is 3 millimeters,
3
4
millimeters
millimeters, 2 millimeters of stitch. Very good, of stitch length.
Of the distance of how
You
long the
see
stitch
it?
is? How long the stitch is?
Exactly.
Okay.
So this is actually 3 millimeters
Good. Keep
of
it
stitches.
scientific.
And then you pull it outside the machine and cut close to the fabric. You turn the back, you check your thread at the bottom should stay at the bottom. No looping, no messes. And then the top thread is what you have here. Everything is intertwined and well done. So you are like, okay, it's proving that you've done right. If you see any gibberish, that's how I call it. If you see any debris, any nesting, things like that, it means the machine is telling you that you messed up somewhere. So you go back and you correct it. So you can now go ahead and finish threading your machines. I'm just taking this out and I'll let you practice it on